Hello? Can you guys hear me now? Because I don't think you guys heard me all this time I've been talking. Oh my goodness. So someone just put their hand up and said, I can't hear you. My goodness. Okay, so let's see what's going on here. Okay. So can you all hear me now? Okay, great. So I'm sorry. The webinar started, but apparently the mute button was broken and it was on. So let me back up a few slides. So I apologize because here I'm telling you all this good stuff and you ladies and gentlemen weren't able to see me because the mute button was on. So my bad. So let me just stop this for a minute and let me just go back real quickly. Bingo. So I'm going to start all over again. Pardon me. So basically, I've only gone 4 minutes, so we should be okay. Basically, what I want to talk about today is the Contractor FAQ on 203k winning the bid. And this webinar is sponsored by the National Association of FHA Consultants and the member consultants around the country. And what we're going to talk about today is what 203k loans are and who should be using them. We're going to talk to you from the perspective of being a contractor. So those of you here on the call who are real estate agents, lenders, consultants, home buyers, whatever your current situation is, we are going to be talking to you as if you were a contractor. So take off whatever other hat you have on and put that contractor hard hat on, because that's who we're focusing this on today. And so as a contractor, we're going to show you how you can do 203Ks, how you can find 203K projects, how you can use the Genesis Rehab reporting system to be successful doing the project, and how to win bids. Because it's not just enough to just keep going to bid meeting after bid meeting. You know the expression, always a bridesmaid, never a bride? That isn't what you want to do. You want to go out and win. And so this is what we're going to be talking about today. So before we go into the presentation about what the program is and how you can be a successful 203K contractor, and forgive me if I slip every now and then and say consultant because I'm so used to working with consultants, I believe that you don't hear a person until you know who they are. So if you'll just give me about 5 seconds, because I want to make sure I get through this quickly to go to the next part of the webinar, I want to tell you a little bit about who I am. I actually am the owner of a 24-year local home inspection company, Value Home Inspections. I'm a functioning 203K consultant and actively practicing in my local market. I'm also the co-owner and director of education for the Keystone Real Estate Academy, which in partnership with a local mortgage broker provides educational support to real estate agents working especially with understanding about loans related to renovation consulting. I'm also, because of my experience, I have actually created, and for the last 9 years, been the creator and senior trainer of the 203K in a Box FHA Consultant Training and Marketing System. And through this organization, we have trained and gotten certified many of the consultants that are on the roster today. And National Association of FHA Consultants. I am the executive director and very honored to be heading up this organization, which is devoted to the community, consistency, and competency in the world of renovation consulting. So that basically tells you who I am in a nutshell. And what is the jewel in the crown of all of these things? The Genesis Rehab Project Creator. Genesis is the only rehab reporting software that is 100% web-based, totally accessible from any device, created by a consultant for a consultant, and it is the only system that has a contractor interface that allows contractors to create, submit bids, and as well as the draw inspections and documentation for after they win the bid. So that's a little bit about who I am and what my goal is. And for those of you who don't know me, I am also known as America's 203K Queen. So you can Google me and find me there. So I want to move back past that again. And as I was saying just before, this is the second in a 3-part series. The first part of the series was myth busting, why you should not do 203K consulting for contractors. And so I just want to breeze through a couple of these myths just to let you all know why you should be involved in the 203K program or conventional renovation lending, which is extremely similar to the 203K system. First of all, a lot of people believe that 203K loans and renovation lending is for low-income homeowners. That is absolutely not true. In fact, loan limits can go up to $1.6 million for an up to 4-family dwelling in some parts of the country. And you can use this loan to purchase or refinance an existing mortgage and add the repair costs to the purchase or refinance amount up to that loan limit. So technically, you could buy a property for $1 in a neighborhood that is being sold for $300,000, and you could literally do $300,000 worth of contracting repairs. A nice piece of change for you. So don't think this is for low income. It's not. The second myth, and this is where we actually found out that the mute button wasn't working, is that there's only two types of there's only $35,000 loans. That is not true. There is the limited 203k, which is up to $35,000, and then there is the standard 203k loan. And this standard 203k loan is designed for any amount of money, as I said, up to the maximum loan limit for that neighborhood. Not sure what the maximum loan limits are for your particular county? Please reach out to us through our website at NAFHAC.org or email us at support@NAFHAC.org with your information, and we'll gladly send you a link to the HUD website where you actually can find by state and county what the maximum loan limit for FHA 203k mortgages. And then there is the conventional renovation loan, which has no loan limits. With the conventional renovation loan, there are different guidelines and different restrictions, but you can do it for any amount of money, $500, $1 million. There is no limitation on how much you can qualify with the conventional renovation loan. And many lenders who started out in the 203k world are now making a great deal of success in conventional renovation lending. Myth number 3. Not many people use 203k. Well, that is absolutely not true, and especially considering what President Obama mentioned yesterday in his closing comments, that he's going to lower the PMI, which is going to make it even more attractive for people to use FHA mortgages. Over 20,000 203k loans were projected to be done in 2017, and that projection was released in December. I can only imagine how much of an increase over that is going to take place because of this new information that's just now hitting the world. So myth number 4, nobody can get these loans. It's hard to qualify. Actually, it's even easier to qualify for this mortgage than it is a conventional mortgage, because you only have to put down 3.5%. And they can use this FHA 203k loan, your borrower, with a credit score as low as 620. And they can even get that down payment by getting money from family and friends and other individuals, OPM, other people's money. So don't think this is hard to do. And in fact, it's a great opportunity, contractors, that let's say you have a project that is a large renovation project. Someone wants to rip off a roof and put a second story on the top of the house. And they were looking to do it as a like a cash out refi or a home equity loan. In many cases, they cannot get enough money to do that project. And even if they do get an amount of money that covers the amount that you put in your contract, there's no guarantee it will cover things like the contingencies. So you might want to connect yourself, and we're going to talk about what your next steps are at the end of the webinar. You may want to contact and connect yourself with a renovation consultant in your area who has a network to a loan broker who you can offer your clients the opportunity not to do a cash out refi or to do a home equity loan, which have high interest rates and lots of terms and conditions, but to simply refinance. And using the 203k, not even have any down payment whatsoever and no out-of-pocket closing costs on a refinance. So this is something that you can help guarantee your money will be there for you when you're ready to be paid. Myth number 5, borrowers can only fix the FHA items. I hear this over and over again from contractors, and they state to me that they've been told that the only thing that they can do are those things that HUD says have to be done. Well, that's absolutely not true. In fact, we're going to show you how with the 203k refinance, 203k mortgage, you will find that the consultant is going to include not only mandatory repairs, but items that are recommended by either you or the consultant or desired by the homeowner. But the priority is that all of the mandatory items must be completed first on the list of things to do. So that just basically is the top 5 myths about 203k that I hope you guys will now completely ignore moving forward, because they do not exist. So now let's get involved in the fun. Okay, so first of all, here is the flow of events for a 203k project. And you can see this is a very simplified flow chart, and we're actually going to go into the section over on this side here very quickly in a very few minutes. But let's talk about it. The first step is that the borrower, and we use the term borrower as opposed to buyer. I'm speaking to you real estate agents out here today. We've used the term borrower because many of our clients, about 40%, are refinancing their mortgages, and they are not working with a real estate agent. They're simply working with the lender and us as the consultant and you as the contractor. So we use the term borrower to represent those individuals who are the clients involved in the project. Okay? So what's the first step? The borrower has a consultant come out and identify what the repairs are that need to be completed in order for them to qualify for the 203k loan. Now, this is known as a preliminary work write-up, or another term for it is feasibility study. If you are a contractor and you have a client who you think who's said to you, I think I want to buy this home, I'd like you to come with me to look at it to see what repairs I need to do when I buy it. If you find that there are a lot of repairs and those repairs are safety issues, and your borrower, your client, is trying to get an FHA mortgage, you might want to say to them, this is where we should stop, because I see things that I know are going to fail an FHA appraiser. You need to get an FHA consultant to do a preliminary evaluation of what the mandatory repairs are, include what the recommended and the desired improvements are, and that way we know how much money we need to add to the purchase price of the mortgage, and you don't have to come out of pocket one penny after closing. When you do this, please never be afraid to think that you are going to be, superseded or shoved out of the project. If you are the contractor who is working with the client when we as a consultant are introduced to them, make sure you tell your client, don't forget to, because the consultant or the back office for the consultant will or should ask this question, are you working with the contractor? And make sure that your borrower has all of your pertinent contact information handy so that we can make sure that we know that you are going to be involved in the project from the very beginning, so much to the point where we actually would invite you to our preliminary walkthrough evaluation. So we come out to the property and we complete a report that identifies what the repairs are. If those repairs are less than $32,000, now again, a limited streamlined 203k can go up to $35,000, but that has to include a minimum of a 10% contingency. So you can see that if I have a $32,000 project and I add a 10% contingency, I've gone over 35. So it needs to be less than 32,000 in repairs to cushion that up to 35,000 point. But let's say the repairs that are mandatory, recommended, and desired, all included, are more than $32,000. Or they can be less than $32,000, and understand this is important. The repairs can be $10,000. But if those repairs are structural in nature, let's say you have some termite damaged ceiling or floor joists in the crawl space or basement. Let's say you have some rotted piers or columns. Let's say you have structural cracks in the foundation. It's a manufactured home that needs to be tied down to a foundation. Those are things that constitute structural repairs, and if there is any item in that repair list that is a structural repair, the project cannot be used in the limited streamline K. It can only go with the full K. So by you knowing that, you'll be able to tell your client right up front, let's call the consultant. And for the purpose of discussion, since I'm hosting this webinar and a lot of people on the webinar are from my local area, you as a contractor are going to say, let's call Value Home Inspections to get them out here to do a preliminary work write-up so we can get this started right away and there's no delay in you getting your closing and me getting my payment by starting the work. So if you see anything structural, call for the consultant to come in. And I strongly recommend all of you contractors to look in the NAFHAC roster on the NAFHAC website for a 203k consultant in your area and call them. If they're not on the webinar today, or even if they are, call them and say, I was on the webinar, the National Association of FHA Consultant Part 2 webinar. I'd like to talk to you about working with you as a contractor so that you actually can be already in their database when the bids begin. So the repairs are over $35,000 or $32,000. At this point, using the information that has been provided to you by the consultant, using the Genesis Rehab Project Creator, you're able to create your bid. So you actually will be invited to bid and I'm going to show all of you how that takes place in just a second. And then using the Genesis Project Creator, you actually complete the bid, submit it to the consultant. We then are able to forward your bid to the client and let them know you've bid successfully, and they review the bid, they accept your bid. Your numbers are then used and copied over into the consultant's final work write-up package, submitted to the underwriter, the borrower goes to closing, and you start work. So now, we're going to talk about everything up to this point, up to the point of going to closing. Part 3, which will be in about 3 weeks, is going to cover what happens after settlement. What happens when work starts? How do you ensure that you get paid successfully and quickly? So we're going to go over that in our 3rd part of this 3-part series. So let's pause right now because I want to actually open up the Genesis Rehab reporting system, and I want to actually show you all how I'm going to invite you to bid on the project. So I'm going to open up the Genesis system. So as I said to you in the beginning, or maybe you didn't hear me because mute was on, you should have all received an email that looked like this, that actually gave you the instruction on how to log into Genesis, enter your email address that you registered for the webinar, and a temporary ID. How many of you received that email with your temporary contractor ID? Please hit the raise your hand button. Check your email. Excellent. Okay, great. So we've got a lot of people here. Excellent. And the hands are going up. Okay. If you didn't get it, please check your email box right now. And make sure that you check the email that you registered on the webinar, because that is the email that we use to create your temporary contractor login. If you are a consultant, this is a separate login on a separate company. This has nothing to do with your own company login. This is a separate company, okay? So here you can see, and I'm going to open up the screen, that every one of you who registered for this webinar before 3 o'clock this afternoon, you got added as a contractor on the company NAFHAC. This is the NAFHAC test company, and all of you got entered as a contractor. So there you can see all the people. So all of you, again, we didn't have your physical street address, company name, or zip code and things of that nature, because we didn't ask for that for the registration of the webinar. So all of you are listed with your last name and the word company. So that's how you know this is your sample test company. It just basically says company on all of them. Okay, and then you can see they all have the same phone number. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's because it's test data. All right. So here's what happens with the project. So now, as a consultant, I'm going to log out and log back in as a consultant. And let's see this. Hang on. All right. So everybody should be seeing that everyone is, for the purpose of this test, you're going to log in under the company ID of NAFHAC. And then I'm going to hit the button that says Consultant. For the purpose of this training, you're going to hit the button that says Contractor. And I'm going to log in. There it is. Hang on. Let me just put my login ID in. And hit Login. All right, so now this is what the consultant sees when they're looking at the project. And this is what every consultant sees. Now, that blue bar that you just saw me click is our inline manual. This is where you can get a great deal of help information. So here is a button that actually is a walkthrough for how you as a contractor can view and edit your project. If you are a consultant and have not yet started working with Genesis, you actually can start your free account by just hitting the button that says Creating Genesis Rehab Reporting Account. Here is a sample contractor video on what to do to set up a 203k project in Genesis. Also, there is an extensive help menu right here that you can use to get a lot of information. The inline manual tutorials are going to be increasing daily as we work on growing this new service that we've added to our program. And you can see here, this is our updates and release. So just keep track of what we're doing, and you'll be able to see what we're doing with our updates. So what I do as a consultant, and what you're looking at here are 2 projects One is in contractor bidding and one is still in feasibility stage. And I wanted to show you that the feasibility task list is where the consultant enters the information about the property. And what the consultant does is I go into the scope of work, as you can see here, and let's say the client has requested that they want to put new cabinets in. Well, I'm going to enter in here, and this is just a very simple test. Install cabinets and countertops. Where? Kitchen. Who is requiring it? This is the repair classification I was referring to. It is either desired by homeowner, mandated by FHA HUD as identified by the consultant, or recommended by the consultant or you. If you recommend that your client add some additional structural beams to keep the add some cross bracing underneath the floor joist to help stop a spongy floor, then that's something that's recommended, and that is a valuable resource to be able to have in your system, that you can actually recommend what people do. So I'm going to say that this is let's say this is recommended. The kitchen cabinetry is kind of sad looking, not that great, but not structurally compromised. The contractor is going to do the work, so we're going to say provide, let's spell it correctly, and install 30 linear feet of cabinetry, 15 linear feet wall, 15 linear feet base with counters, and then cost allowance of $125 a linear foot counter and $45 a linear a square foot for, let's make it a real number, let's say $70 per square foot for granite goods. So now, this is telling you what your material costs are. We don't tell you what your labor cost is. Now, as a consultant, I will give the actual approximate cost of what this should cost, both labor and material, and I will let the client know before you do your bid what I believe the approximate cost will be. So just let's say for the purpose of discussion, and we always put the comment, cost does not include door, drawer, hardware. Okay? So let's say for the purpose of discussion that this kitchen is going to cost, let's say $6,000 total, labor and material. Okay? I haven't done any calcs. I just want to just put a number in there. Whoops, quantity 1. Even I make mistakes. Boom. So now if I go back to my construction cost estimate, you can see that I have all these line items here, and my total cost of the project is $39,000, not including the contingency. So now I'm going to finalize this document, and I've actually even imported for you to be able to view the photos of the property. So as a consultant, I've already described everything that you're going to need to bid. Only thing you will do is you will not see my numbers. You'll just have the comments. You won't see the numbers, and you'll even be able to view the pictures. So now I finalize this report, and once it's finalized, I then send it to the borrower to review and decide, do they want to spend this much money? Do they not want to spend this much money? Do they only want to do the mandatory repairs, or do they only want to do mandatory and recommended, or do they want to just go for the whole project? Whatever their decisions are, I may make some modifications to the scope of work, but before I get it to you, and in some cases I'm going to show you how you may actually be requested to make modifications even after you have logged into your report. So now it's taking a little while to process because we're running so many programs right now, video recording and everything else. So let me just put this on pause for a minute so I can see if this can work. And there it did. Okay, perfect. I just had to pause one thing to let the other thing run. So now it is ready for contractor bidding. So now let's go back. We have 2 projects that are ready for contractor bidding. Okay, and now in here, so we're going to take this one, I'm going to roll it back. So now I have 2 projects that are in contractor bidding. So now what we're going to do here, and this might be a little difficult because we have so many people on the call. What I'm just simply going to do is I'm going to just go down the list and take the first 10 people I see, and I'm going to check them off and invite them to the one bid, and I'm going to take the second group of people and I'm going to invite them to the second bid. Okay, so on this project, I get to invite up to 10 people. Okay, that says we have 25 contractors on this roster. We have a maximum of 10 contractors who can be invited on the bid. Okay, so we're going to start here. I'll take out some of these test ones. I don't have to put them in there. Right, there you go. So if you are looking at the screen and you see your name, get ready to check your email for an invitation to bid. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so up through Victoria Maxwell, which is record number 13, you are going to receive a bid. You're going to be receiving an invitation to bid. And just a second for that to process. Okay, so we've invited 10 contractors to bid for this project. Now we're going to go back to the second project. Which is test. So I'm going to pick this up from where we began, which was Victoria. So starting at Bill May, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, there's 3 of you. My goodness. Someone's really excited. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. We're going to only do 1. We have the 3 different emails for this one individual. Okay, well, we're going to just not sure why, but we're just going to go ahead and let them all have theirs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I have to take out 2 of the Gerald Reeses. I've got too many Gerald Reeses in here, so I'm just going to take out, I'll leave the first one in, and I'll take out the second and the third one. Okay? So if you are on the line, Gerald Reese, the email address that we have accessed you for this is the email of edpengineers@gmail.com. Okay? So now I'm going to hit the button to email to the 10 of you. So now we have 80 people on the call, but those of you who registered, you registered after 3 o'clock today. So a lot of people registered late, which is as well because it just makes it easier for us to get the first 20 in. So now both of these are now in contractor bidding. So now I'm going to actually go to, and here you can see this is one of our test clients, our test contractors, and you can see where he now has an email where he's being invited to bid on the renovation project courtesy of NAFHAC. And so what it will say for you, it will say courtesy of, and it will put your company name as a consultant if you are a consultant on the call today. It gives the property address, and then it says, in order to view the bidding information, please log into the Genesis portal using the login credentials established for you. We give you the link, and you can just click the URL. We remind you of the login details, and we remind you of the passwords. Now, this is a temporary password, I know, because it's got a combination of uppercase, lowercase, and numbers. So let's log in as the contractor. Let me put this screen up here. All right, so here is the so let's go back and log in from the beginning. I type in the company, and now I'm going to hit contractor. And if you notice, there are little green buttons. Here is actually a video training on how to bid using the Genesis 203k program. So whenever you see a little green question mark, it probably is some useful information that you can benefit from. So now I'm going to put in the registered email and the temporary password. Now, the first thing that comes up for your contractor, as I wanted you to understand, is a terms of condition. And I want to make this a little bigger so you can see it. And you actually can use the zoom button here on Genesis. So if you're looking at this from a mobile device and you need to make it bigger, you can just press that zoom button and it will make it larger for you on your device. So here you can see the notification of conditions for contractors working with 203k loan program. It talks about all the requirements that you must have, your EPA lead safe practices certification, on any necessary insurance, credit and background qualifications that are going to be necessary for lender validation. And all this information the contractor is required to read and state that he has read and agreed to these terms and conditions and the privacy policy. So if he's accepted the terms, and he can't come back to you later and say, well, I didn't know I had to have insurance. I didn't know I had to have this or that. He had to know, because if he didn't know, if he hadn't read that, he couldn't have been able to get to the place where he's able to create his bid. So now you see here, this is where he now has the bid. So again, as I said, he was invited to bid on the Carol Smith project, okay? And since this project was started a long time ago, the bidding date is actually quite outdated because it's based upon when the initial consultation was, and that basically when I created this sample data. So now, I'd like everybody to just take a second, switch over to your email, check to make sure you've got your login credentials, and then open up Genesis portal and see if you can see this bid. So, while you're doing that, I'm going to continue, but once you've been able to see the bid yourself, I'd like you to raise your hand, okay? So if you're able to see this bid, please raise your hand so that I can actually know that you actually were able to successfully log in. Excellent. Hands are going up. Fabulous. Okay, so those of you who are looking at the other project, you're going to also be able to log in and see, but you won't see the phrase Carol Smith. You'll see the name of the other project. Okay? So I've got some hands going up. I have some that are not. You might be on a device where you can't actually access another window. We're going to keep moving forward. I'm not going to, delay that. So you don't even need to log in. I'd love you to practice this after you finish the webinar so you actually can talk to a contractor intelligently when they are asking you. So we have several contractors on the line. I haven't seen your hands go up. I really would like you to get to practice working with this practice project before you're actually required to submit a time-sensitive bid. So you will be told when your bids are due. The consultant will let you know what the deadline is for bidding. And you need to be aware that if you attempt to submit your bid after that bidding deadline, you will not be able to. You will be locked out from submitting your bid after the deadline. Okay, so just want you to be aware of that moving forward. So here you can see that you actually can see the name of the client, the name of the lender. You're even given the information about the name of the real estate agent, so that if you have any questions or need to have access to the property, you actually have information on all the individuals involved in the project. So you actually have, so you can't say, well, I didn't know the client's name, I didn't have his number, I couldn't call him. That doesn't play. You have that information right here on your dashboard. So here you can actually view the actual bid. Let's say we've scheduled a contractor bid meeting where we've invited multiple contractors to come out to a property, review the scope of work, and submit a bid. Well, here you can see that we're going to give you all the details that you need to know. So this project only requires a general building permit. Okay, actually it does. This actually was put together hastily. And so here you can see all of the line items, and when you complete your bid, you're going to put in the material unit, so in other words 1, the material, the amount and the quantity, the labor and the quantity, and then this is actually when you walk around the property, you can make notes on what needs to be done in the home so that you can submit your bid. So now, you're not going to use this bid. So again, this is a very simple bid, just a few line items, just to show you what to do and how to do it. So you're not going to have to worry too much about this. And here you can see some photos. I just stuck some few photos. They're actually duplicates of every single one of the photos because this didn't have a whole lot going on. But as you can see, you can view all of the pictures even before you actually accept the invitation to bid. So what will happen is we're going to give you an invitation to bid. You can look at the project and then decide, I'm not interested in bidding. And then you can notify the consultant by email that thank you for the opportunity, but I don't like the way this job looks, or I don't have a heating contractor and it's heavy in heating, and right now my heating contractor is MIA, or whatever your situation is. You actually can view just the pictures. So you don't even have to go through the whole report. You can see the photos to help you get a feel for what the project is. Then the next step is you print the bid package off, and as I said, you can go here to the bid package button and then print it on through whatever printing you have, and you don't even need to. You can print it on your printer at your office, but you don't actually need to print it. Again, you can do this using a tablet or a smartphone. So if you just want to take this with you as you walk around the property, you can do that. You don't even need to print it off, but most contractors will take the printer to take some notes. Okay? So what's the next step? Submitting a bid. Now, when you are ready to submit your bid, when you've got your numbers in place, you need to be aware that all other line items that have the circle with the line through, the do not pass, the no or do not pass button, means your bid cannot be submitted because there are mandatory line items that must be included in the repair. And if there's a green check, it means that there are line items that need to have money entered into it for bidding purposes, but that these line items are not mandatory. So let's say, for example, I submitted a bid and it had mandatory and recommended and desired items. The buyer realized that they can't afford to do all the things they wanted to do. You know the phrase, champagne taste and beer budget. Okay? So the contractor can't, so you may be told by the borrower, I only want you to bid on the mandatory repairs. You don't have to worry about anything that is not mandatory. Well, the good news is that in that case, you, in this specific very limited bid, you only would have to bid on one item. So you go into here, you click the blue button to provide estimates, and here you can see of the items that are listed, the ones that are shaded in pink, or was supposed to be red, but red is too bright, so I just made it pink. Shaded in pink are the mandatory. The ones that are not, are shaded in blue and yellow, are desired, and they don't have to have numbers entered. So for every line item that's mandatory, you must put in a material rate, so the quantity and the measurement is already provided for you. So this is a lump sum repair cost. It's a quantity of 1, and the description is repair, defective fascia, and trim. And here is the specific details. Contractor to repair all rotted fascia and trim, replacing wood as needed. And at the bottom, you will find that there is always additional category description. Now, let's say, for example, you're going to replace the rotted fascia and trim, replacing wood as needed. Now, let's say the client said to you, you can replace this with wood. I don't need vinyl. I have to keep the budget low. So you're going to basically, you can add comments that will be part of the final package. So you can say, as per borrower, replacement siding material to be wood. Okay? So if there's anything that you want to make sure is part of this permanent contract to protect you, you can add it into the category specific details, and it gets copied over into the final file if you are the successful bidder. Okay? So now, if I tried to hit submit, it wouldn't work because I have not completed all of the mandatory repairs. So here, let's say I'm going to charge her for the materials. Since it's going to just be wood, I'm only going to charge $500. All right, so that number is calculated for me. You can't edit this. And then there is no, if you have a tax margin, let's say you are in Philadelphia and there's an 8% sales tax, 0.08. You actually calculate that, and I'll show you where you calculate the tax margin in another place. I'll show you where you calculate tax margin in a minute. And then let's say your labor cost to replacing the rotted fascia and siding on, you know, wherever it is in the house is going to be $1,200. Okay, so the total cost of the project, I'm going to make this, there you go, had it so big. The total cost of the project for this line item is $1,700, and now you can see that it is green because I've successfully completed all the necessities for this specific line. Now, this one here says, now the location here was exterior, and here this is another one. Contractor to repair all rotted fascia and trim. This is actually a duplicate. I just threw it in here just to show you what had to be done. So now I'm going to put in 250 and 150. Let's just say 100, 1,000. So the total for this line is, so now I've got green on green and 2 yellows. I could enter this information if I chose to. Cap siding at the north garage side of home with new vinyl siding, color to match. I could put that in if I chose to, but just to prove it to you, once you have all mandatory items with green, give it a second, it says there's still mandatory items that have cost to be entered. That's because further down here is a line item that has to have mandatory. See that? So if the client says, I only want you to do the mandatory repairs, I could bypass the walks line, I could bypass the wood floors, I could bypass cabinetry, but I can't bypass appliances. So here you can see, provide and install gas-fired range. The only thing FHA requires for a 203k project in the kitchen is a 6-foot sink base and a working range. So here we're going to put in that, and we look at our notes here, borrower to purchase and arrange installation of appliances from Lowe's will reimburse directly to borrower upon inspection. Okay, well, we're not going to have that, so we're going to put in here, contractor, let's say the borrower decided, no, I don't have the money, I'd rather have it do it in the loan, contractor to provide range, and let's say the price of the range you guys agreed upon is $650, not including incidentals, hoses, etc. Okay, so now we're going to put here under material $650 for the cost of the range, and then we're going to put in here under the labor includes your incidental costs. Okay, now some contractors feel that, well, that's part of my material cost, I have to pay tax on it. All right, so if you want to make sure you put in the total cost of all of your elements, make sure you have the range costs, the unit cost listed here, so the borrower doesn't try to spend all of that number on the purchase of the product. In other words, let's say you say $725 is your material cost, because that includes hoses and pipes and whatever, ducting or whatever you need. Well, a client will look at this and say, well, I can spend $725 on a range because that's what my material rate says. This comment here under specific details overrides and is the deciding factor. So the more specific of detail you give, the better off you'll be. Okay? So let's say you're going to charge her $250 to do the labor. All right, so now we hit submit. Give it a minute. Wait for it. Still scrolling up in the left-hand corner. Boom. Now all mandatory items are entered and you are ready to submit. Click the Submit Contractor Bid button below if you have entered everything. So you can see the nice green button here and the nice green button here, and that's our total cost of the project with just for the appliances and the siding. Now, let's say you are at the property and the borrower by yourself, and the borrower said to you, you know what, I only want to do these things, but with the extra, I do have a little extra money. I would like you to please regrade this, repair the fencing, put up a new fence at the back wall. Well, there's no fencing line item because the borrower never told me as the consultant he wanted fencing. So what can you do? This button here is one of the most fantastic features of Genesis, and this is nowhere else will you find this. Well, nowhere else will you find online bidding. But this is where you click this button and you actually can create a contractor recommended line item that is considered part of the bid, incorporated in the numbers, and submitted to the consultant to compile in the final package. So this is a contractor recommended item. You can't change that repair item selection because that's what it is. Where is it going to be located? So for you, you're going to say this is on the exterior. Who's requiring it? Well, you have only two items, desired or recommended. So because it's not mandatory because you're not a HUD consultant. So you're recommending, the desired borrower wants to put a new fence up and you're going to be the one doing it, okay? But let's say you were going to have a subcontractor do it. On our next call, when we talk about, on our next webinar, when we talk about after closing, we're going to talk about what to do if a subcontractor is going to be involved to do certain items. But let's say just for the purpose of speed of this conversation, you're going to do the work. So, contractor to provide and install PVC picket, we'll say privacy fence along driveway side 45 feet. Okay? White. Give as much detail as you can, please. The more detail you give, the better the consultant can incorporate it and make sure it's accurately documented in the work write-up. So we're going to put in a unit allowance. So let's say we're going to do by linear feet, and we've got 45 linear feet. And let's say the price of the PVC privacy fence is $30 a linear foot. All right, that's $1,350. And then you're going to do a lump sum. Let's say you want to do a lump sum labor cost. You could do a labor by linear foot and charge a labor price per foot if you chose. But most of the time you can just put one lump sum amount for your labor cost, and you're going to put in, let's say, $1,200 to put up your side of it. Okay, I'm not calculating these numbers using my program, so I'm not actually comparing these correct numbers. So do you want to add another item? Yes, because you know as well as I that a municipality is going to require a permit for a 45-foot long fence. So let's hit submit. Let's take it from 45. Let's say 15. That's a long flipping fence. Let's say it's 15 feet, okay, just for the purpose of reality. And then I'm going to add another item. Now, when you look at your bids, ladies and gentlemen, if you were at the bid meeting with the client and the consultant, and the client asked for something at the conversation with the contractors, I, as the consultant or the consultant involved, may say to you, please make sure to add this to your final package. Okay, if it's one or two items, we may indicate to you to add this contractor recommended item to your bid. If it looks like when we get there the condition of the property has changed since the initial evaluation by the consultant, let's say the home's been vandalized, or a new problem has arisen that we were not aware of prior to the initial consultation, we'll probably say to you that don't worry about doing a bid. We're going to re-invite you after I, as the consultant, go back and edit it. In that way, you're going, if I'm entering 5 or 6 different line items, that way you will be able to all be bidding apples to apples. But if it's just 1 or 2 items, I may not want to slow up the process. I may say to you, please go ahead and submit your bid and add this recommended item. So, am I going to add another item? Absolutely. And I'm going to add another item, and this is going to be under exterior. And this is recommended by you, permit for 15-foot fence along driveway. Now, let's talk about permit. When we are calculating your fees as a contractor for permit, we will put in the cost of the actual permit as the material number. So let's say in this case it's a $75 permit. And we will give you an allowance of 1 hour of travel time to go get the permit for every permit that's pulled. And the rate that typically we give a contractor that most NAFHAC trained consultants are allowing is $75 for the 1 hour of you going to the municipality. So when you're putting your bids in for permits, you want to make sure you calculate the cost of the permit and 1 hour for your labor. And then you will be able to be very successfully received by the lender and the consultant. So let's go back out. So here you can see the siding had numbers. Those did not have numbers. And here we have our contractor recommended items. And there you see both of the items that we inserted. And here you add contractor recommended details. Borrower requested a privacy fence along driveway, side, permit fee is an approximation, exact fee for fencing to be determined after closing. So why do you want to make sure you put that in there? Because if after closing the cost for that permit is $150, that extra money will come out of the borrower's contingency. So now, I wanted to mention to you about your markup. So let's say on your cost of materials, most contractors will include their labor, their tax costs. Most contractors are not very specific. They just say, okay, you know what? It's going to cost me $800 for materials. Some of you are very, very specific, and you actually have your numbers for exactly your materials, not including tax. You can actually edit your tax margin by hitting the edit tax rate, and then you can put in what the tax margin is that will be applied to all of the material line items. And there you can see all of the line items are being updated. And so now you can see, actually I put 0.08 instead of 8%. Duh. Or I'm going to fix it. Sorry, it's 8.0%. 8% tax for materials in Philadelphia. How hateful is that? And there you can see now the tax has been added to all of my material only, not to the labor, to give me my correct numbers. So I'm ready to submit the bid. If you've got green, green light is go. So now here's the thing. Are you absolutely sure you want to submit your bid? You will not be able to change any values after submitting. We give you that option because we want to make sure you understand once you submit this number, the only way to change it is if you ask us to let you resubmit it. And we have to actually go back in and ask you to revise it. So now, give it a second. Let me power down this so I can speed that up. Bingo. Okay, so here you now, once you've successfully completed and submitted your bid, you will be able to see the contractor bid before you submitted your bid. You'll be able to see the photos, and you'll be able to see what you submitted as your submitted bid. Your bid is not entered or emailed or accepted by the consultant unless you see this word submitted on your main dashboard. Okay? So what does that do now? So I'm going to go back in here to the project. Let me refresh my screen. All right, so under the Carol Smith project, right here where it says View Contractor Bids, so now of all of the people who were invited to bid, all right, and so let me scroll back because I had it on pause. So here, this bid here, you're going to get, I will be getting as a consultant an email saying a bid has been submitted for property Carol Smith 455. So then I will log into my side of Genesis, and there you can see that of all the people who are on the webinar today, 2 of you are actually in the process of reviewing your bid. I, as a consultant, can actually even see, I can see if you've even opened it. So those of you here that say unopened have not logged in and clicked to enter any numbers in. Those that say in progress have actually clicked the button, and let me go back to here. They've clicked this button, and that was over here, the green button that says enter bids, and they're actually starting to put something in there, or even just looking at it. And so with that being the case, if a client is saying to you, well, has anybody submitted my bids? I don't see anything. You as the consultant can actually tell if you've done your job or if you haven't even opened it. And if you haven't even opened it, the first question they're going to ask is, did you see the email? Because we will be getting, the consultant gets a copy of the email that's sent to you that lets them know that you got your bid. Now, our copy of the email does not include your login details. For security purposes and for the arm's length necessity of this transaction, for HUD guidelines, we can't not know what your password is so that we can't go in and alter your code or alter your bid in any way. So we don't have any knowledge of what your password is. So you have to make sure you check for that email. So if you haven't gotten, so I'm going to lower everybody's hands. Those of you who are on this project, Carol Smith 455, did you all see your email? Okay, because some of you haven't opened it yet. Okay, so yes, Dave, I know you did because you're already working on the bid. All right, so here you can see this is the one bid that I just submitted. I can actually view it. Okay, so here I can view the bid as a PDF. I can view the project details. I can actually accept that bid as published and make him the winning bidder. And if that is the case, we're working on sending out an email to all other bidders saying thank you for your interest, however the bid has been awarded. But if, let's say, for example, the numbers, we didn't like the numbers and we wanted you to change it, we actually can send you a link. We'll actually reopen the bid and send you a request for revision. So here you can see that on the contractor side, which is in another browser, he now has to go back in, and I'm going to hit, oops, where's my, refresh button. And now you can see where it says revision requested. So now you click this little button that says view project details. and now he can go back in and resubmit the bid. So let's say the client went back in and said, hey, that fencing number, the client says that fence number is too high. They're not going to do that much on that. Okay, we're not going to do that. We'll just take this out altogether. You actually can literally just go in and delete it. So let's say we keep the permit just for kicks and giggles, but we take out that line item. So let's say you're told, okay, take that out because they're not going to use it as part of their bid. And then now you can submit the bid. So this is how contractor bidding is successful. This is how you are able to expedite your bidding process. What's the benefit of this program? How can you be able to be successful at this? Well, my suggestion is that if you have subcontractors, train them all and give them login access to the portal and tell each of them to go into their specific category and enter their numbers. Give them a bidding deadline. Make sure that you have your subcontractors write down in the section under submit data, so work to be performed by John H. Smith's heating and air conditioning. Get your partners to be as proactive and professional as you are, and you won't be doing as much work, and you'll be able to enter more bids. You'll have more time to prospect for more business and be able to do things like work on your website or do other things to make yourself look like the professional you are. So now we've submitted it, and I'm going to hit refresh. Wait for it. Where'd it go? Let's go back. All right, so let's go back here. So did I hit submit it, so I'm not sure why it's not going up. It might just be stalled. So let's go back. And let's open up the one that says Test Compton, see if anybody has put some numbers in. Okay, so we have one person of the 10 people who were on this side who've actually opened up the file and is in the process of completing that bid. Okay, so that is what the bidding process is with Genesis. And as you can see, it's very straightforward. Not a whole lot of buttons for you to push as a contractor. It's designed to make it easy and simple for you to be able to use as a 203k consultant. So I've answered all those questions on what the 203k process is for the contractors. So what's your next step? Well, the next step I want you to do is first contact a NAFHAC member FHA consultant. If you are in an area, if you're not sure, go to the website nafhac.org, hit your state, and look for a consultant. If you're in an area and there is no NAFHAC certified consultant, please contact us at nafhac.org. Whoops, let's go back there. Bingo, so right. Contact a NAFHAC member consultant, and if you don't have one available, contact us. We will start prospecting in your market to get consultants added who will be able to use this software. Do you know a consultant right now who still has you writing manual handwritten bids and having you have to check your math and call you up, say, I don't understand your handwriting, or these numbers don't add up, or you didn't enter numbers in all the lines? Would you like to get away from that? Would you like to get to the point where you can key in your bids successfully, professionally, and quickly? Tell that consultant to contact us at NAFHAC. They will be given a 60-day free trial membership that they will be able to utilize if they'd like to join us. And if they do, once they're a member, after the 60-day free trial, they will be able to do reports for as little as $59 a month with unlimited number of reports. Get on bidding lists of consultants in your area and register with those NAFHAC member consultants to be on their Genesis software site. And after that, your next step, download my book, Insights of a Successful 203k Consultant, How to Have or Run a Trouble-Free FHA Renovation Project. You can get it at our website, www.nafhac.org, and right there on the home site is a button that says Insight Book, and it's totally free as an electronic download. And the next thing you want to do after that, look for an email from us about the next webinar in the series on what to do when you've won the bid, how to manage a project after closing. A lot of that information is in this book, but we're going to talk to you and teach you how to work with the Genesis software system and how to be able to successfully complete your draws in a way that gets you paid quickly after you start work. So I'd like to actually open up the lines. We have a lot of you on the call. I do know that. So I would like to just basically, I'm going to ask if anyone has a question, I'll unmute you. Does anyone have any questions right now? If you have a question, just raise your hand, and then I will unmute you, and you can ask your question. Uh-oh, looks like we have no questions. Wow, that means I did such a great job training you guys on contractor education. Raise your hand if this was a helpful educational session for you today. Excellent. Thank you all. Fantastic. And I'm going to put your hands down. One last question before we end today. How many here think that Genesis is going to make them much more successful either as consultants, contractors, lenders, or real estate agents? Well, thank you again so much. And like I say to people, when we are in a live show, when I'm on a stage at an event, or just at the end of our weekly or our bi-weekly webinar and our conference calls that we have, I always like to say, until I'm able to support you in the future, be outstanding. Thank you all so much, and I look forward to seeing you on the Part 3 webinar, What to Do After You've Won the Bid. Thank you, and have a great day. Bye.